Welcome back to CNN 10. I'm Carl Azus. Our 2019 winter-spring season winds down this week. Friday is our last day, and an explanation of why we were off yesterday is 3 minutes away. First, though, we're reporting on an upcoming leadership change in the United Kingdom. On Friday, British Prime Minister Theresa May announced she would resign as her nation's leader. The main reason? What the Prime Minister described as a deep regret that she was unable to deliver the Brexit, an international agreement on how Britain would leave the European Union. The deal that Prime Minister May had with the EU needed to be approved by Britain's Parliament to take effect, and it never was. She said that though it was right for her to keep trying, even when the odds against success seemed high, it's now clear to her that a new Prime Minister would be in Britain's best interest. There are several members of her political party, Britain's Conservative Party, who are hoping to replace May as Prime Minister. Lawmakers say they plan to choose a new leader by July 20th, and May will serve until then. But whoever gets the job will still have the challenge of forging a Brexit plan that both Britain's Parliament and the European Union agree to. If one isn't reached, what's called a no-deal Brexit could happen, when Britain suddenly breaks off from the union of 27 other countries, leaving a lot of questions in the air about economics, immigration, trade deals, basically how Britain conducts business and politics with the rest of Europe and the rest of the world.
It has been the honour of my life to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
An emotional retreat as Theresa May finally bows to intense political pressure from within her own party and announces she'll shortly step down. Her tenure may be characterised by a single issue and a single word: Brexit.
They decided that we should leave the European Union.
May put her proposed Brexit deal to a vote on 3 occasions. It was rejected by the House every time, reflecting a political system in stalemate and a nation divided.
I have done everything I can to convince MPs to back that deal. Sadly, I have not been able to do so.
Britain's leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, tweeted his approval, saying she was right to resign.
What she was offering what had already been put on the table. Yes, we want to prevent a no-deal Brexit, and we will do everything in Parliament to prevent a no-deal Brexit. But the reality is, a new Conservative leader isn't going to solve the problem.
May's announcement ignites a frantic race to succeed her. Boris Johnson, the former Foreign Secretary, whose personality politics have been compared to Donald Trump, commands significant support among grassroots members of the party to replace May.
Boris Johnson, I think, would be a great Prime Minister.
Johnson bitterly opposed the withdrawal deal that May negotiated with the EU and resigned from her cabinet over it. On Friday, he described May's statement as dignified and said it is now time to follow her urgings, to come together and deliver Brexit.
Brexit is unstoppable, as Helmut Kohl used to say.
The opposing side of the European negotiating table were more sympathetic. Chief EU negotiator Michel Barnier expressed full respect for his departing counterpart, noting the determination with which she persevered. And outgoing European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said, through a spokesperson, May's speech left him without personal joy. May's failure to unite her party or garner enough cross-party support behind her deal proved her undoing. Her successor will seek to find consensus where she could not.
Since the U.S. Civil War, when Americans used flowers to decorate the graves of their loved ones who died in battle, the country has paused to remember its fallen troops. The event that began as Decoration Day came to be known as Memorial Day. It's now observed on the last Monday in May, which fell on the 27th this year. Memorial Day is held in honor of everyone who's died while serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. Flags are flown, troops are saluted, events, parades, and ceremonies are held all across the country. Last Thursday, before he left for a planned state visit to Japan, U.S. President Donald Trump joined First Lady Melania Trump in planting flags at Arlington National Cemetery. And on Monday, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence was there, participating in the wreath-laying ceremony, visiting the tomb of the unknown soldier, and delivering a speech in which he said that Memorial Day is the day that makes all other American days possible. 10-second trivia. The world's highest peak, Mount Everest, is named for whom? A British surveyor, a New Zealand mountaineer, an American explorer, or an Australian geographer? Sir George Everest, or Everest, was a British surveyor who helped map India, but Mount Everest is named for him. It was New Zealand's Sir Edmund Hillary and Nepal's Tenzing Norgay who became the first climbers recognized for reaching Everest's summit. Since they did that in 1953, several thousand other climbers have reached the mountaintop. Several hundred people have died on the mountain. That includes 11 mountaineers who died in this year's climbing season, making it one of the deadliest seasons on Everest. May is considered the best time to climb the mountain because the weather's usually a little better and the winds aren't as extreme as in other months. But a mountain guide told CNN that this year's weather hasn't been great and that it's left a limited window of days that are good for climbing. Combine that with overcrowding on the mountain, a number of inexperienced climbers, and some expedition companies that may not be prioritizing safety, and you have the reasons why climbers say it's been particularly dangerous in 2019. The Nepalese government issued a record number of permits this year to Everest climbers. Nepal is a poor country that benefits from tourism, but its government blames the companies offering guided treks to the summit for the deaths. Whoever's responsible, the pictures of crowds in places where the human body simply can't survive for long clearly show part of the problem.
It's really quite striking to be looking at these images that climbers are posting on social media, that long trail of people during the final push to try to reach the summit of Mount Everest. And those photographs are from an area that's known as the death zone, and it's called the death zone because of the levels of oxygen there, the incredibly low levels of oxygen, just a third of what you would find at sea level. And this year, we're talking about at least 9 deaths happening during this climbing season, which is really only a few weeks long. On average, there are about 5 to 6. But a lot of climbers have been saying that this treacherous attempt is made even riskier because of the wait, about 2 to 3 hours. One British climber seems to have been well aware of the risks. Robin Hayes Fishner, who died on his way down from the summit, had posted to Instagram saying, with a single route to the summit, delays caused by overcrowding could prove to be fatal. He had decided to wait to see if he could hit a time when there would be fewer climbers. Other experts that we have been talking to are saying that the Nepalese government needs to do more. They say that it's baseless, that these deaths were caused by the backlog. They say that they are trying to regulate who gets to go by ensuring that people who are issued permits have a certain level of experience. But then all of this is also being compounded. The risk is being compounded not just by the number of permits and the backlog, but also by what many are saying is the lack of experience level among some of the climbers. And then all of these companies who are really trying to push forward to get their climbers to reach the summit, that it is resulting in some cases in a lack of due diligence when it comes to care for the clientele and how commercial all of this has become. And one expert mountaineer who we were talking to was saying that unless something changes, every year he's expecting is going to be even deadlier. Arwa Damon, CNN, Kathmandu.
Underwater, one of the places where you wouldn't want an Uber driver to take you, unless, of course, you ordered up a ride on the Scuba. This costs more than a ride to work. It's over $2,000. But for that money, you get a car and helicopter ride to a mini submarine, and then you get a 1-hour underwater tour of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. It's part of a partnership between Uber and an Australian state to promote tourism. So if you're in Australia and the price doesn't sink your budget, you may want to scuba up the opportunity to tour the Great Barrier Reef. It's a drive and a dive, a plunk for a plunge, a trip and a dip, and as long as you're not nervous below the surface, it could be the ride of your life that's uber memorable. I'm Carl Azuber for CNN.